All right, welcome to another episode of the Sonic Visions podcast. Today, we are greeted by our returning guests, Nick and Xecuter. How are you guys doing?
Good, good.
Yeah, I'm great, man. How you doing today, Smod?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Awesome. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see how it goes. This is kind of an impromptu kind of episode. Unfortunately, the recording screwed up on yesterday's episodes. We lost that one, but I've kind of put into place many things to make sure that doesn't happen again. So it should be totally fine this time. It seems like everything's recording fine. So I guess I wanted to just start off with what you guys are kind of interested in right now. What gear is on your mind? What are you listening to? What are you looking forward to? Take it away.
I want you to start on this one, Smod.
Yeah. So yeah, I talked about it a little bit last time, but yeah, I did get that Elekit tube amp, the TU8600S, and it's just really incredible. So just mind blowing. It's my first tube device, and I was just amazed at it has those qualities that everybody talks about with tubes, that it created this more layered kind of three-dimensional sound stage, and it had, there's more nuance to the sound. There's more there was surprisingly more detail than my solid state head amp, and just the nuance and the tonality was just so beautiful that I was moved to tears at one point, and that never happened to me with headphones ever. It only happened with really good speakers. So that was just really impressive. And then today I did some more comparisons with the main thing I'm comparing it against is the Audio GD HE9. I know not everybody is the biggest Audio GD fan, but I think it's a great amp, a great solid state head amp. And I mean, it does still sound great. I'm not gonna say it's a bad sounding amp, but it's the Elekit is definitely in a different league in terms of, again, spaciousness, the imaging, the air around instruments. I find there is a warmth that a kind of harmonic warmth that makes the 800 sound very fluid and relaxed sounding, but still more detailed than the HE9. So it's just really amazing. The difference in sound quality overall reminds me of the difference in sound quality between the HE9 and the Pass Labs speaker amp when I do HE9 pre into the Pass Labs. So, the real comparison will be the Elekit versus the Pass Labs. I'm waiting for another speaker tap cable so I can do that comparison easily. And my hunch is that they're going to be relatively similar sound quality. And that's what I mean. To me, that's a win, because the Elekit does not get nearly as hot as the Pass Labs. It's a much smaller device. Easy to kind of switch on, switch off. I don't have to, go to the power amp and disconnect, my speakers and connect my headphone tap cable. So overall, I'm extremely happy with this device. It's just incredible, and I have a write up on the website about it.
Nice. So, what's the system? You've got the Elekit with the Terminator, and you're running. What headphones have you got at the moment on cycle?
HD800S, ZMF Atticus, and 650, and all of them were amazing. My favorite pairing is probably the 800S. Now I really love listening to the 800S. I kind of felt like you. I felt like, man, I'm like Zach with the with his studio at 800. Like I kind of, the things you said, it made sense to me. Like the amount of detail extraction, it really reminded me of when I had the TC and the Susvara here from Shiro's. Like that's the detail I was getting. It sounded like that, and it just goes to show you that the 800 has an incredible scaling ability, and it can go. I mean, I want to get, Shiro's actually selling his Susvara, so I might kind of grab it from him and compare. But it sounds to me like it's just in the same league, as those, top of the line planars based on this amp.
Yeah, man. With the right amp, HD800 goes a really long way on detail and I mean, it does have. It's always going to have the peak and always be a little bit brighter and thinner than I guess the top end planar headphones, and the bass extension's not going to be there. But like, really, I don't know. I still find it a remarkable piece of kit, especially for the money these days. You know, it's almost like a bargain, which is crazy to talk about something that costs over $1,000 USD new as a bargain, but I
Right.
still feel like it is a bargain in our weird hobby. How did you find the HD 650s from tubes? Because this would be the first time you've tried the HD 650 off of a decent tube amp, correct?
Absolutely, and I was also amazed by that pairing because it also pushed the 650's detail level much higher. And I initially, when I put the 650 on, I didn't I said, okay, I'm gonna take it off now. I'm gonna listen for a little while and take it off because I don't listen to 650 that much. I couldn't take it off. I listened to album after album, and it was just incredible tone, and it was just smooth, detailed, rich, non-fatiguing. It's and of course it's so comfortable too. So it sounded really amazing. I think that when I went back and forward, eventually today, I still probably prefer the 800 pairing better. The 650 does still sound a little bit, a little bit kind of closed compared to the 800's,
Yeah,
open stage. 800 has a bit better imaging, like not a bit better. I mean, it's noticeably better. But honestly, the 650, like to me, it's no longer just like a headphone I don't take seriously or I use it as my work headphone or YouTube. It's a viable, really, really viable, amazing top of the line headphone in my opinion. When you pair it with at least with this tube amp, it sounds amazing.
yeah, I can
Hey
definitely
guys,
believe that.
hey
Yeah,
guys,
yeah,
can I step in for a sec? Cause
yeah.
I'm got to get out and move some sandbags, and I'll be back. But
Sure, sure, sure.
you, Mod, you had the biggest smile. My cheeks were hurting so bad. You had me smiling so bad when you were describing your first session with some tubes, and every bit of it is absolutely right on. I
Yeah.
mean, what you were experiencing, it's like, okay, I've set the hook on this guy, and we got him hooked good. I mean, there's just no going back. Yeah, the other stuff is there, but we got him, and he's ours. And
Yeah,
and now you're gonna have, like you said, you started going through album after album, and that's going to continue. And then you're going to say, well, I wonder, it sounds really good. I wonder, my buddy's got some tubes I can slap in here and see what that does for it.
yeah.
Don't get sucked down that rabbit hole. No, that's such a bad rabbit hole because there's, but it is such a beautiful. It brings something like you described it much better than I ever could. Just the sounds that it brings is so different. And let's face
Yeah.
it, most music, the older good music was all done with the electronics was tube amps. That
Yeah.
even today, rock and roll, you don't have a guitar, you don't have a lead guitarist without a tube amp. I mean,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's it. It just tingles that part of our inner being, our basic animalistic instincts. It strums that stroke for us, and it's one it's untouchable outside of this area of experience. But
Absolutely.
I just wanted to say that I'm going to step out and move some bags, and I'll be back if y'all are still here.
All right, Nick. Thanks a lot.
All right.
Okay,
Thanks a lot, man.
I really enjoyed it, guys.
Yeah.
See you, Nick. Lift with your
See
legs,
you, Nick.
mate. Don't lift with your back.
All right.
The
Smod,
Yeah.
what tubes do you run in the 8600? Is it a 300B?
Yeah, these are 300Bs. Yeah, Cosser Black Plate 300B, and
So wait. What's 300B?
the brand is called Cosser Black Plate 300Bs, and
I have never heard of that.
yeah, I think it might be Chinese. I'm not sure, but I think it might be a Chinese brand.
You're gonna pop some Elrogs?
Yeah, we'll see about that. I mean, I've already spent way too much money, so I don't think that's gonna happen anytime soon. But I mean, now I have a good platform that I can build upon. I don't
Sure, man.
see that's the other thing is I don't even feel the need to build upon it. Like it just sounds so good that I just want to just keep hearing this sound. Like it's really unbelievable. And I was talking to my friend Shiroz, and he used to be into tubes. Well, I mean, he tried many different tube device. Well, he told me he tried one of the Apex devices. I forgot which one it was. And then he also tried the he had this mini max or something like that, a tube DAC, and he liked it for the mid-range tonality and things like that. But he said that he always found that there was a big compromise in the bass performance and the speed and the resolution. But I told him, I said that that's not what I find. I find the bass incredible. I find the impact, slam, it's all there. The resolution even.
It depends on the amp.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Did you get? I think you cut off there.
Oh, sorry, mate. He's probably talking like the Apex Teton or something like that, which is the OTL design will have a bit of a compromise in the bass, depending on design. You know, there's some new OTLs that are coming out that are really sophisticated, like, you know, the Z10 and stuff, which might have corrected some of those issues.
Right.
But yeah, I think the design of the amplifier you have, you're not going to compromise on bass. Like, solid state's not definitely going to have better bass unless it's really well designed solid state. They're going to be toe to toe. It's going to be toe to toe. But you've got all the benefits of the tubes, and you've got the, like you say, the wider, deeper sound stage. You've got the sparkling highs. You've got that little bit of treble, you know, bloom and stuff that just sort of takes the edge off of some things, but also kind of attenuates. Decay seems that little bit more natural in that it, you know, it doesn't just vanish. It kind of lingers in the air for an instant. You can feel like you're hearing the room for a second. And you're like, Jesus, I need another drink. I'm gonna be here for a while.
Yeah, everything you said, Xecuter, everything you said was bang on. Lana, welcome. How are you doing?
Hi, Smod. Did you get your tube amp already?
Yeah, that's what I've been talking about. The Elekit. It's just mind blowing. It's really mind blowing. It's changed everything for me. It's a sound I've never heard before. It's everything. It's lived up to all the hype you guys have built and exceeded it, in my opinion. I did a write up on it, but it's just truly amazing.
So does that mean you still want more headphones, or are you happy? Like, I remember telling you multiple times that having a tube amp makes you feel like you have double the headphones. So I wonder if you feel that way now, or but I still get the craving too for a new edition every now and then, even though I do have tubes.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yesterday, and I think today as well, like, I lost all interest in buying more headphones because the sound from what I have here was so amazing, and it was just it was mind blowing, and I felt like I remember when I had the Susvara here, and the TC as well, that it had that extra level of detail that the 800 didn't have when I compared them. And I put them on the big pass amp, and it just, the Susvara and the TC, especially the TC, was several, you know, you could hear the texture, you could hear this whole low level resolution that you never heard before. I don't have it here now, but I feel like I could hear that with the 800 with the tube amp. I could feel that same detail, that same resolution, with something else, like with this. I feel like I'm hearing that tube magic, you know, that tone, everything. What the way Xecuter explained it, like, that's exactly how I felt. The way you've explained it, Lana, like, I felt that, and I felt like, I don't need any headphones. Now, having said that, you know, I'm sure that over time, I'm gonna start getting curious again and thinking about it. My friend Shiroz is selling his Susvara, so I'm kind of curious to, like, you know, maybe jump in a car and go over there and grab them and hook them up to this and see how it sounds. But yeah, I feel very satisfied. Let me put it that way.
That's good. I got my Z10 on Monday.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so there's quite a story there. My first day hooking it up, even though they told me that they pre-break it in,
Mm-hmm.
The magic wasn't there day one, so I listened to it day one, and it just sounded a bit off. I guess like it wasn't presenting me that tube magic. It didn't sound all opened up and fully broken in. So what I did was for about 3 days, I kind of just would turn it on for a long time throughout the day, and I would just let it play music with something hooked up while I would be
Yeah.
doing something else. And then yesterday, because day one I put Abyss TC on it, and I was like, you know what, it doesn't have that magic there, and I was a bit disheartened. But I let it break in for 3 days. I did some heavy breaking in on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I revisited yesterday, and it broke in a ton. Like, it sounded even better than I remembered. Like, that
Wow.
same magic, yeah, that same magic was there. It sounded, like, euphonic and wide, and that bit of warmth and lushness that wasn't there the first day. Especially with the Abyss, like, it was completely there, and I was just overjoyed. I thought maybe like my amp just wasn't as good as I remembered it being, but after and I actually called the owner because he lives about an hour from me, and I told him about this, and he said, "Well, you know, mine started sounding good after like really good after like 100 hours or so." So he
Mm-hmm.
just kept urging me to let it break in and do its thing. So if it's gonna keep getting better, by all means. But I think that after 3 days of burn in, it just sounds phenomenal, and I can barely
Nice.
rip myself away from it. Like, I've lost sleep over it. I would stay up till 5, yeah, I would stay up till 5 a.m. being I cannot tear myself away from my tube amp.
That's awesome. So one question I have is, how does the Z, like, did you put the 800S on the Z10 yet or not yet?
I need to do it some more since I noticed that it broke in a lot. I've mostly been using Abyss with it.
Right.
Um, I I couldn't tear myself away from that combination, but I need to cycle through everything.
Yeah, because I'm really curious about the Abyss versus the 800S. I mean, obviously we know that the Abyss will have, I would say, I mean, at least a much more extended bass and much more bass impact and all that. Like that. I mean, there might be some debate from other people, but I realize that. But I'm curious about just the micro detail and the resolution and that kind of thing. Like, does the 800 scale up with the Z10 to almost to the level of the Abyss? Like, I'm curious about that because I don't have the Abyss here to compare. So that would be interesting to hear like to hear about that in the future when you kind of listen more to the 800.
I I will listen to it and I will get back to you on that. One thing I noticed, even when my amp wasn't fully broken in on day
Mm-hmm.
one, I noticed it is a speaker amp technically. It has a lot of power, and one thing I noticed is the insane slam that I was getting from the HD800S. Like, it
Nice.
just insane slam. I was like, I can't believe these are capable of slamming so hard.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people when they get HD800s, the main complaint is, oh, they sound thin and they don't have slam. The bass is lacking, but like sticking them onto this, like there was slam, and it definitely didn't sound thin. So I need to definitely give him more time. Um, but yeah, so far so good.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, I think that you're at a level where few audiophiles will ever achieve this level that you're at, and I think that from what I've read, the TC plus a really good tube amp is like that's the holy grail, in terms of like not having any real downside sonically, because the tubes help with the mid range, and then you still have all the resolution. You have the legendary bass and everything. So I think I envy you. I think it's just amazing that setup.
the only downside I can think of, which isn't a downside for me because I like it this way, but my friend Oak Forest Audio, he's not so much of a fan of this, but on my tube amp, the Abyss TC's bass sounds a bit looser, if that makes sense, and I like that. It makes it
Right.
sound more natural. There's more like reverb going on. It sounds just I can't explain it, but it definitely doesn't sound as tight as it does on solid states, but the
Right.
transients are also more softened up on tubes.
Right. Right. No, I,
So the
yeah. Sorry. Sorry.
So yeah, the tubes they soften up the bass, but they also soften up the transients. For example, I know a lot of people say that Abyss doesn't have super good timbre, but like on tubes, I don't want to say it fixes anything because I just feel like that's a whole controversial thing of fixing your headphones with a DAC or an amp or whatnot. But it definitely softens up the transients. It keeps it super detailed but more natural sounding, and as a result, the bass sounds slightly looser, but in a way that's more pleasing for me anyway.
Nice. Nice. No, that's amazing. Yeah. Maybe if I convinced my friend to let me borrow the TC again, I could hook it up to my amp and hear it. But it sounds like an amazing combination. Xecuter, what about you? What are you listening to or looking forward to? That kind of thing. Oh, I think he might not be there. Okay. Oh wait, let me just see. I think Nick's trying to talk. Hold on.
My Mac preamp are pretty nice, and of course, you know the Auteurs have no problem with bass, and no matter what you're driving with. So the slight difference through the preamp, the Mac, the tubes through that, but I still prefer the Brooklyn for my headphone just because of the amount of power it can put out and to drive my Auteurs to a better level. Now, with the clears, either tube or solid state sounds fine. Just depends on the music selection you're going for. But
Right.
yeah, I mean that's ultimately that's for me the selection of headphone is dependent on the music. Because I've never found a headphone, and I'm not willing to venture the endless time it takes to find a personal perfect headphone. I don't think it exists, to be honest.
So
Where for one,
so Nick, you have the clears and the Auteur. Is that right?
yes, sir.
Okay, nice.
So
And what? Sorry, I think your volume was down initially, but what tube amp are you using for the clears?
well, actually, I was driving it through my preamp,
Oh,
which
I
is all
see.
tube. Yeah, I'm using the jack out through that, and
Nice.
yeah, so it doesn't drive as many watts as the Brooklyn. The Brooklyn's driving 6 watts of balance, but so that's why when I want something with more bass and more refined, I'll go for the Brooklyn just because it has the sheer wattage. But
Right.
for my party headphones are the clears because to me that just it's a party headphone in my opinion. Rock and roll, high energy, fast, and the Auteurs are classical, jazz, trios, stuff like that. And together, they're they're my perfect headphone. But you
Right.
have to change headphones in order to change your selection of music. And I'm probably the only person I know that will go from jazz and classical to high energy dance music and then back again.
I
But
would.
oh, there you go, love it, love it. My wife looks at me like, no, it's just no, and I'm like, oh yeah, baby, it just does something for me.
Nice. That's
But
awesome.
and then I'm back to the problem where the Auteurs are really good, and I love them to death. I wouldn't have kept them. But to me, the high energy dance music, all kinds of that, is Clears for sure. Oh my God, the gas lines here are crazy. There is no water on the shelves. So I'm going to have to check out and go to work. It's been a pleasure. Lana, great to see you and hear you back. Thanks for your input, Smod. Can't thank you enough for leading this wonderful venture that we're all in called Sonic Vision. You rock, my friend. Xavier, good to see you, and I'll catch up with you all later. God bless you.
All right, thanks a lot, Nick. I appreciate you. You take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. So I think Zek. Are you there? I think Zek. I don't know what's happening. Okay, no, he left. Okay, so I think that this is kind of interesting because we. Oh, there he goes. Zach, are you there?
Sorry. Yeah, sorry, I was having some trouble there. I just jumped in the car and the mic and speakers. I don't know. I'm back.
Okay, awesome, yeah. So it comes to you. What things are you kind of listening to now, or what gear are you excited about right now or in the future?
I'm a Lana item. I've got an Ayon, Ayon, CD5S, which is like it's about a 10-year-old CD Transport preamp. It was like top of the line when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is overbuilt as hell. It's got like 8 tubes in it. Tube output stage on the transport on the DAC module, tube preamp. It's a pretty neat, decent kit. But sort of like Lana, I plugged it in, and straight away it just didn't sound right. Like I've been, massively disappointed. And it's well run in. The item's 10 years old, and then you start trying to work out what's wrong with it. Is there a tube loose? Is there a tube dying? Like, why is it noisy? Like, why isn't it sounds good? But then it's hard as well because it might just sound that way. It's
Oh, you're cutting out, Zach.
because right now I'm just running my DAC, which has a built-in digital preamp straight into active speakers.
Right.
So yeah, I wanted to see what a tube preamp would do, and so far I've isolated the tube preamp, the transport, and the DAC separately, and all of them don't sound fantastic. So I don't know. I have a bit more tinkering to do before I weigh in on it, but so far not good for this item. I have another preamp coming in as well next week, which is an ATC SDA, which is the one that was designed for my speakers. And it's a solid state preamp. I don't know, they run about 8,000-9,000 US new. This one I've sort of bought on a loan. I can sort of move it on for what I paid for it, so it's just sort of to see what that sort of sounds like in comparison. So yeah, I'll probably be talking about that next week, and hopefully it sounds better than this Ayon.
Nice, awesome. Sounds good. Another segment that we're introducing is kind of music that we're listening to, either all-time favorites, or it could be something like something you found out that was new, like a new artist, like in the past week or so, or new album. So why don't we start with you, Lana? Like anything new that you're listening to, or what are your kind of classic go-to albums or artists?
Oh, as for new things, usually I just find new things by letting my music player like Rune or Tidal or even Spotify just show me new things. And half the time I can't remember them like right off the top of my head. But as for something classic, last night I rediscovered on my tube amp how much I love Leonard Cohen's You Want It Darker album. So I spent quite a bit of time listening to that
Right.
last night.
Nice. And are there some classic like favorite artists that you always like going to?
Yes, I love Fleetwood Mac, I love Leonard Cohen, I love Bob Dylan, Joan Baez, um, Journey. Like, always have fun with Journey. Um, I love
Nice.
the problem is I just listen to a lot, so my brain is trying to figure out what all I like to listen to. Um, but yeah, I love all of those classics. I love Leonard Cohen. He was such a poet, and like Chicago, Boston, like all those bands. Growing up though, my mom was a huge ABBA fan, so I had to endure a lot of ABBA. And yeah, my mom loved the disco scene, so she had me growing up listening to ABBA, Boney M, like Rasputin by Boney M as my jam. I'll just put that on sometimes. Um, my dad was more into, as far as American music goes, like Billy Joel. So I love Billy Joel. Um, who else? Oh, Johnny Cash.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely adore. Actually, I love his duet with Bob Dylan. It's called Girl from the North Country. Just fantastic song, full of so much emotion. So if you guys haven't heard that one, look up Johnny Cash and Bob Dylan's a duet of Girl from the North Country. Just sublime.
Kevin at that upscale audio, he always talks about Johnny Cash, and that's like his. He uses that as an example for like good drivers and good mid range drivers that are big and they provide like the body and the. He always says chestiness of Johnny Cash's voice. So when you mention that, I get reminded of Kevin basically.
Kevin has good taste.
So and then Zach, what about you? Like favorite art? Oh, I think he dropped out. Let's see. Oh, there he goes. Yeah. Zach, what about you? Like favorite artists, either now or in the past, or albums?
I don't know if my voice is working. Is it?
It's working. Yep, I can hear you.
Woo! Oh, yeah, I keep getting cut in and out, but it's probably because I'm switching like audio type stuff. Yeah, I think for me, classic. I don't know. I think I enjoy a lot of like well, everything, man. I'm a lot like Nick. Hey, I'll listen to Rage Against the Machine and then flick over to Yo-Yo Ma. Like, I just don't know what I'm doing. Like, it just. I went to an audition the other day, and a guy was playing his name's Nils Lofgren, and he played a song called Kingstone Carpet, and it has an acoustic live album, and that song, the guitar, the transients on the guitar are unreal. Like, I have to say, if you guys got new here and you want to hear some beautiful guitar work, Nils Lofgren, about 2 minutes in, 3 minutes in, there's a couple of solos in there. It's awesome piece of guitar work. I'm listening to a mixture of everything. I'm loving Chet Baker. I've been revisiting his album again. Really good album there. Glass Animals, I always love a bit of indie pop. Bit of old J at work lately because I like some of the Britfire rock stuff as well. But yeah, I'll listen to anything, but nothing has really come across other than that Nils Lofgren album. I'm just loving the guitar tone. I think you just got to hear it. It's just insane, especially on speakers. And another one is I've been looking at a bunch of soundtracks. I've been listening to just like Hans Zimmer stuff, you know, the Batman soundtrack.
Nice.
I haven't heard it on big speakers before, and I put on I think the Batman Returns album, and oh my god, like the bass on that album is just nuts. Like the Chasing Dog song, yeah, I love it on headphones. I always have how to listen to it, but for me, I put it on big speakers, and I was like, oh, I've never heard this before. This is just like actual chest rattling, room shaking, like your feet are on the ground, but you can feel the floorboards like flexing, and I was like, yeah, this is good. This is good. I don't know if the house likes this, but I like this.
Yeah, honestly, soundtracks, they're if you find a really good soundtrack to listen to, like, it can be such a thing of beauty. Um, like, I love the soundtracks from, let's see, Inception has a good
Oh,
soundtrack,
yep, fantastic.
Interstellar has a great soundtrack. One of my favorite soundtracks of all time is, it's called Memoirs of a Geisha. That's
Oh,
a
yeah.
great
Mm.
film and great Asian music there, and, let's see, I love the soundtrack for, like, The Hours, which I believe is a Philip Glass, soundtrack.
Oh, yeah. Still so good.
Yes, let's see. Yeah, I love soundtracks. There's something about a really well executed soundtrack. It just enhances the film,
Oh,
like,
so
by a
true.
lot, in my opinion.
Have you heard the Tenet soundtrack?
Yeah, I actually saw that in the cinema when it first came out. So, yes, I definitely downloaded the soundtrack after I saw it in cinema.
It's a very stressful soundtrack. Like, it's not something you can just listen to on a drive through the countryside, because you feel like you're in pursuit pretty quickly, because it's very, I don't know, like anxiety inducing. Like, I don't know, I just find that the music builds so much tension. And I think that's the other thing that I love about that soundtrack in the movie. They couldn't actually get Hans Zimmer, so they got this other guy to do it, and yeah, I think he did a fantastic job, especially of just building tension in the scenes. I mean, the movie was a difficult watch. I enjoyed it, but it was also pretty confusing. And I mean, they had to narrow the dialogue right down to pack so much into the movie. But yeah, the soundtrack. Oh, I think it's awesome, but it's a bit stressful.
Yeah, it's a stressful soundtrack. Oh, and another composer for us, a lot of soundtracks that hasn't been mentioned. I love Danny Elfman.
Yep, very good.
Yep.
Yeah,
The
just
Game of Thrones, the Game of Thrones soundtrack's up there too for me.
Game of Thrones.
Ramen Ramen
Yeah.
something a lot of the seven. The recording quality is not quite perfect, but the use of organs and piano, like as soon as you start hearing piano in Game of Thrones, you know everyone's gonna die. Like it's like that's what they managed to build, and I love those audio cues that they start putting into shows that are so well, so well thought out, and you start to hear certain instruments, and you're like, oh god, I know what's about to happen.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of soundtrack music as well, like Lord of the Rings, Matrix. I really like those. I find the one thing I find though is they typically are not as well mastered as like typical audiophile music, so that is kind of a letdown at times. But of course, I still listen because I still love the music itself. So I wish this goes for games as well. There's a lot of awesome game soundtracks like I mean the classic is Diablo 1 and 2 is just incredible. Like the
Oh,
original the Tristram the theme is I
yes.
think Matt Uelman, right? Is just unbelievable. And then the obvious huge one if we go into video games is Jeremy Soule with his Elder Scrolls series. I mean, he has lots of different albums, but Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim, like almost every single track he makes is a masterpiece in my opinion. Now, as good as it is, like just the mastering quality, I think is still lags behind traditional audiophile music. And if they mastered it at a level similar to kind of traditional audiophile music, then I think my enjoyment would be that much more. But still, it's just amazing.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point, but I think, the market would be 99% non-audiophile, if not more, like,
Yeah,
and when
yeah,
you're playing a game, the software doesn't really allow for anything beyond probably even 320 kbs playback, because it's not like it has a
yeah,
high-end audio playback software
yeah,
built into to the game. So
yeah.
they're probably thinking, like, best case scenario, people are using Logitech speakers, is this going to be passable on it? So you're right. I think they sort of cater stuff to the audience, but some of the stuff that they've written, the original music written for games and movies, it really is deserving of, high level mastering, mixing, and production sort of levels. But you're right, it's a shame, but it doesn't sort of happen frequently. Fortunately, guys like Clint Mansell and Hans Zimmer are audio nerds, and they do put a fair amount of effort into getting decent mastering done. But yeah, for some of the other ones, it's just not quite as clean and tight as it could be, because it's like they know that it's not going to be played back from a consumer level on pro level sort of gear.
Yeah, who was the composer that used Quested studio monitors?
Oh, that's Hans Zimmer.
Yeah, see, so he definitely comes off more of an audio nerd than some of the others.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, no, it's definitely a good point, and but it's still definitely I enjoy them. I think two vocalists I found relatively recently that I really enjoy. One of them is Ariana Savalas, and the other one is Rebecca Jean Elliott, and they're unfortunately they don't have many albums. It's either one or two each, and but the albums they do have, I just love them. Their voice is just it's the perfect balance of that darker kind of richer tone versus a brighter tone, and yeah, the just supporting jazz ensemble around them is also amazing. So I really enjoy them. And then another thing that I really like is space ambient. And ambient music in general, like when you're working and that kind of thing, you just need to concentrate. So a really good artist is John Serrie, JONNSERRIE, and he to me he's the king of space ambient. His music is just amazing. Every track is just fantastic, and so that's kind of probably worth checking out. I know on the episode that didn't record, M Shanae was on, and he mentioned, I forgot the name of the person he mentioned, but a like a ecology kind of artist who kind of does lots of nature recordings. And so there was one. We'll get him to mention on the next episode, but that I just found that really fascinating. Like just listening to nature and sounds and music. And apparently there was one company that demoed speakers by playing like really high resolution thunder and like storm sounds to demonstrate the dynamics and that kind of thing. So that I just it came to my mind, and he already mentioned that, so it won't be on that we didn't get that recording, so I'm just mentioning it here so that way we can preserve that. But that was cool. All right. So the next topic, and Lana, these are your topics, so it's actually good that you're here. The other topic was a kind of the conflict between listening to the gear, or focusing on the gear versus listening to the music. And kind of that kind of dilemma. Sometimes you get so obsessed with the gear, and then you kind of you lose sight of things. There's a YouTuber that's well known on Audiogon that is really obsessed with the gear, and he even mentions this in his videos, and not so much on the music. It's all about the gear for him. So how do you like? What are your thoughts on that? Going between back and forth, and how do you reconcile those two interests?
I struggle. I struggle with this quite a bit, and I don't do it on purpose, but I guess as you move up with higher audio components, amps, DACs, headphone speakers, whatever, um, things sort of become your normal. So, like for me, my normal is already like my Bricasti DAC, a good amp behind it, a good transducer, all of that. And then sometimes I would find that going back to things that I really enjoyed before, I would be really overanalyzing and being very critical of it. Like anything other than my Bricasti DAC won't sound as good. And, some amps now, after like spending all night listening to my tube amp, I went back to my solid state, which I enjoyed for like 2 years. I was like, "Oh, like, it just doesn't sound that good anymore to me. So I would be like shuffling through songs. I would find myself just analyzing the gear, like, oh, this stack doesn't sound like my Bricasti, this amp doesn't sound as good as my other amps, and that's a problem I think a lot of us have. And what I do when I get stuck in that sort of mode of analyzing things versus listening and enjoying, I just straight up, I just tell myself to stop. Like, I become very aware of it. So I just tell myself, like, stop shuffling through test tracks because I have a playlist full of test tracks. And I usually know when I've gone down the gear analyzing rabbit hole when I'm sitting there clicking on all of my test tracks, just trying to listen to my gear. And usually, when I know that I've exited that sort of state of mind when I just listen to whatever music I actually want to listen to versus, test tracks and all of that. Not that my test tracks aren't good or enjoyable, but yeah, usually when I just listen to music freely, the things that I want to listen to, and usually, like, when you catch me, like, head bobbing, head banging, like, smiling, laughing at it, like, being joyful about it, that's when I know, okay, so I've gone into, like, enjoying my music versus just listening for flaws in my gear. That's how I can tell.
It's a good point, like how reviewers sometimes say, they forgot about that they were even doing a review or they were supposed to review something and they just get lost in the music. So that's I like the way you put that, and that's really interesting. Um, and yeah, Ko, welcome back, Ko, regular returning guests. Are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome.
Great, great.
So, cool. Actually, yeah, so apologies about last episode. That's why we're doing this episode. I got a bunch of stuff. I got OBS going. I got like a bunch of bots, so there's no way we'll lose this. Do you want to actually? Let's go to Zach first. What are your thoughts, Zach, on that topic? And then, Ko, I want to go to you to talk about the Shanling again, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So, Zach, what about you? Like, what are your thoughts on listening to the gear versus the music?
Uh, it's a really. I guess as audiophiles, like there's always a level of being interested in whether it's shiny boxes or glass to the aesthetic of a room, but primarily we try to focus on the music, but I feel like we often get really lost in the grayness between the gear and the sound and the actual just sitting back and enjoying music because I think Stellia, who's an interesting character, he talks about how you could have like two systems. Like one's your high-end system, and one's like a really cheap, still sounds decent, like a protective system, like something where you're just like, okay, this is what $200-300 sounds like. It can still sound really good. It can still sound 80 or 90% as good as a multi-$1,000 system if it's got good synergy. So I don't know. I think it's a matter of perspective, and there's definitely diminishing returns in the hobby, and so people often get caught chasing some green fairy, at the end of the garden, some magical sound, when really the limitation is probably the recording that they're listening to, that they're digging deeper than the people who even mastered it, So are they going to find anything good down there? Who knows? So for me, I don't know. I try to focus on the music as much as possible, but I do the same as Lana, where I end up listening to my test tracks and go, something doesn't sound right. Maybe I should do this, maybe I should do that, maybe I need to upgrade this or change that, or this is loose, or this needs cleaning. But yes, other nights when I don't care as much, when I don't have as much time, and I just sit back and listen and go, wow, this is why I do this. So, and a lot of it's state of mind. You can listen to a system that's extremely good with an extremely bad mood, and it's still going to annoy you. You listen to good music with a headache, and it's still not going to be enjoyable. So, for me, I try to weigh up how I'm going mentally, especially if I'm trying to critically listen to gear, because I find that I've done impressions where I'm in a really great mood, everything's good, I'm feeling great that day, and everything sounds great. And I'm like barely able to critically assess something because I'm just in such a music loving, happy mood. And that's again, it's an interesting topic. But yeah, I don't think I'm an authority on it, but I think it's mood is important, and perspective is something I think audiophiles need to occasionally review when they think about, what their system sounds like compared to like a far cheaper system, because sometimes it's good to sort of get those reference points again.
Yeah, definitely. That's well put. And then Ko, can you talk about this topic again, because you had some great things to say last time, and then go into the Shanling?
Yeah, sure. So gear versus the music. I think I said something last time to the effect of the gear comes and goes, but the music stays. And I do cycle through a lot of gear, and I will say that the tech sort of bug or the tech itch has sort of grabbed me. So I do cycle in and out of gear a lot, but I do find myself enjoying the music so much that I think I pitched a scenario last time where if someone forced me to give up all my gear or give up all of the music I've ever heard and then forget the memory of the music and just have low fidelity, Delta airline headphones, I would pick the Delta airline headphones and keep the memories of my music and keep my library, because having to go through all of that discovery journey again to get back to the music that I really love today would not be worth it. Of course, it's always good to have, high-end gear so you can appreciate your existing music more. But, I don't know why other people listen to music, but for me, it's because it's therapeutic, it's relaxing. And after a really hard week or a really hard day, it's a nice thing to do for your mind and for your spirit, I think, to listen to some good music and also discover some good stuff along the way.
Well said, man. Yeah, I love that phrase about the music and the gear and how the music stays. So I know we talked about this before. So if you want to just kind of go over the new exciting device you got, the Shanling device.
Yes. Yeah, of course. So I got this new all-in-one. I put in heavy quotes, DAP. It's called the Shanling M30, and it is a desktop-based audio player. It's a DAP only in the sense of the word that it is a digital audio player, but that's it. It's not portable. I would even argue that it's not really that transportable. It's pretty heavy. It's bigger than the DMP-Z1. But the coolest thing about this device is that, unlike the DMP-Z1, is that all of the core fundamentals or characteristics, they're modular. So for instance, if you're concerned about battery wear, or you want to replace your batteries, you just pull out the battery module and replace it with some new battery cells you can buy on Panasonic.com or whatever. It's not that expensive. If you don't like the amplifier in here, you can rip it out, put in a different amp module when they come out with new ones in the future. Right now they ship with, if you buy an M30, you have to buy all 5 modules built into the device. And the modules are, you get a 4497, a dual 44997 DAC system, you get dual Korg new tubes, and you get a solid state JFET based amplifier. And this runs a Shanling proprietary OS. It is Android based, and Shanling whitelists certain Android music apps. The downside is that you sort of have to wait for Shanling to give approval, and you have to wait for them to port the app over. But you do get support for, I believe, Spotify, Tidal, Deezer, QQ Music, and a few others I'm probably forgetting. They do not support Apple Music, and they do not support YouTube Music, and they do not support Qobuz, to my knowledge. So I'm sort of waiting for that Apple Music support. But I think the best part with this device is that it's squeezed every last drop out of every gear I own. So for those who don't know, I'm selling my MDR Z1R because this M30 manages to extract bass out of the Verite closed to a degree that it satisfies me that I don't need the Z1R anymore. And what else can I say
Words
about
I
it?
never thought he would say.
Yeah, no, it surprised me too. It really surprised me too. I had to do an A/B for about 2 hours yesterday, hitting midnight. burning the midnight oil, and it was very surprising. What I will say for the Z1R is that you can run it off of basically anything, and it'll sound remarkably consistent. It doesn't scale well, but I guess the flip side is that it sounds great out of whatever you plug it into. With the Verite closed, is a bit more picky. You need something with. I know Zach loves pushing tubes. He says tubes on his gear is really, really good. But I would say try something like the M30 or something with a JFET amplification system, because the way this device renders music, the bass just goes down into like a black hole, and it doesn't sound warm at all. It's not even. I don't think it's warm. It's sort of reference sound. It's very nice and neutral, and it works excellently with the HD800. But the tube stage. So this thing has 3 amplification systems. It has a bypass system, it has a solid state system, and has a tube system. The bypass system is really interesting. I'm looking into it right now. Apparently, Shanling claims that that the DAC unit, the DAC board, can drive headphones out, and it will bypass the solid state amplification circuitry. Now, obviously, that sounds sort of impossible, but I think it's because they do have some sort of amplifier chips on the DAC board. I'm not 100% sure, how it works or what they're using to do it, but it's very interesting. I've never heard of a DAC unit sort of powering headphones. And then, of course, the other two modes is solid state amplifier using Shanling's JFET technology, and then the Korg new tubes. And unlike the Ayon C9, which is a portable amplifier, which I mentioned some time ago, the Ayon C9 in the tube mode didn't sound like tubes to me. It sounded like it's pretty neutral. It was sort of like when I listened to tube mode on the Ayon, I thought I had a really hard time determining between the solid state mode and tube mode on the Ayon C9. But on the Shanling, they used the tubes and they created this lovely, rich, warm tube character. It's not as okay, well, I hate this term, but it's not as warm poo as, let's say, a Woo Audio device. If you listen to headphones on a Woo Audio tube system, you're listening to tubes 100%. But with the Shanling, it's sort of it's a nudge into the tube area. And it's actually, I think what they've done is that they've created a tube signature that works really well with the Shanling house sound, as opposed to just going way off into the deep end with the tube sound. So I guess long story short, I tried this. I think Jason was in the audience. Yeah, Jason sort of kind of trolled me and said you should put a Susvara into the M30, and I said you're fucking nuts. This thing only does 1.5 watts at maximum level. So I thought, yeah, there's no way this will sound good in a Susvara. It makes sense. I plugged it in, balanced turbo gain, so it's 1.5 watts, the full deal. And I will say it was remarkably excellent. The bass that it got out of the Susvara was shocking. Now, the downside was that the tonality was a bit off. It was a bit sharp, and I sort of had to stop listening to it after maybe 10 minutes. I am treble sensitive, just for anyone who knows. Oh, for anyone who doesn't know. But on HeadFi, I spoke with someone who does have a Susvara and an M30, and he loved that signature because he prefers a bit more brighter, that sort of, he prefers more treble. And he loves the Susvara and the M30, and I think that's slowly gaining steam, a Susvara M30 combination. And I don't know how they're doing it, but it's superb. So to anybody who either has a DMP-Z1, if you do, get an M30, because it's a great complement. I mean, I'm switching between the DMP and the Shanling, and it's 2 different philosophies. It's really, really interesting. And for anyone who doesn't understand the use case of the Valley for an all-in-one, I would say this. Imagine if you didn't have to dick around with amp and DAC synergy, and you could just have one device, and it has all these different modes, and you can get different sound out of your devices based on the modes you have. Like they have single DAC mode, dual DAC mode, bypass, solid state, tube. You can use it as an amplifier. You can use it as a DAC only. You can use it as a pre-tube, solid state pre. It's really cool.
Nice. That sounds like a very versatile device, and you kind of made a good segue into the next topic about falling in love or out of love with gear, and how you kind of felt that you didn't need a Z1R anymore. Have you found that, Lana, or can you kind of describe your experiences of like gear that you loved and you got along with, and then you kind of didn't like it anymore? Obviously, one headphone comes to mind, but yeah, what are your experiences with that?
Yeah, I sold my Focal Stellia, and when I first joined Sonic Visions, I was all about my Focal Stellia. I think I just gushed about it. I got backlash because apparently people don't like it as much as I liked it at the time.
Oh, let me just
Um,
let me just add in. Mibuzo is selling his Stellia if anyone's interested. Okay.
Yeah, I kind of figured he would, because like you, he got a Verite closed. Actually, yeah, I sold my Stellia and I started missing it, but I think I started missing it due to the sentimentality, the nostalgia of it, because I know that if I were to buy it all over again, I would be really put off by the small sound stage, which used to not bother me, the slightly like artificial over sharpened quality. So I'm actually looking at a ZMF Verite closed in the future to sort of fill the void that I feel Stellia left on my shelf. So, and a lot of people actually did start messaging me and they started saying, "Oh, well, I'm glad you finally saw that the Stellia isn't good anymore." But it's honestly not about that. The best way that I can explain it is I had a really good time, not just with the Stellia, but with whatever I held on to for a long time and sold. Like, I had a really good time with the Empyrean. I had a really good time with the Stellia. I fell out of love with them, but like, it doesn't subtract from the fact that, like, we had a good time. It's kinda like a breakup. You know, we had a good time, parted amicably, I'm moving on to other things, is the best way I can describe it, and, like, it happens. I used to think that would never happen. I used to think I would always hold on to everything because it felt so special in the moment, like, brought me great listening joy, so I thought I would always feel that way. And then when I stop feeling that way towards something, I sell it. And I mean, initially I do, like, even yesterday I was saying, gosh, I really miss my Stellia. But I know that if I were to buy it again, its flaws would just still be apparent. And when I say flaws, it's a very enjoyable headphone. I'm just looking for something else. So I think that's just an inevitable part of this journey. I know people that do keep everything. I've come across people that, they have 20, 30 headphones. They have every amp and DAC they've ever owned.
You can just say PC chip. You can just say him.
Okay, except PC Chip does sell off his things to buy more things. I know people that don't do that. They will buy something and they'll still feel kind of lukewarm towards it and they'll hold on to it. That is not me because I mean, I'm not saying like I'm not poor, I'm not rich, I have disposable income, but sometimes if you're lukewarm towards like your gear, you're thinking that's $2,000 just sitting on a shelf that I could sell to buy something else that can sit on that shelf. So sometimes falling out of love with your gear can be a bit of a blessing, especially if you have heard something, let's say that you like a lot better. You think it's almost like an investment. Yeah, you lose some money by selling things used because things will never have the value that they did when they were brand new. But I sort of look at it as a very expensive extended demo, for example. So if I paid 3,000 for something, fell out of love with it, heard something that I liked even more, I can get most of my money back. Like I would definitely lose some, but in return, I got to spend extended time with that thing. I got to learn why I loved it, why I didn't love it, and for my next purchase, for example, with my Stellia, I think my next purchase is going to be CMF Verite closed because I know enough about what I loved about the Stellia and what I didn't like about the Stellia to know that the ZMF Verite closed might be the thing that I am looking for because I want that sound stage that I didn't get there. So, owning things that you fell out of love with, I think it's a learning lesson, it's an experience, it's an expensive learning lesson, but it's better than not even learning the things that you love or dislike about something in the first place.
Well,
So in my case,
there's a
go
quote. It
ahead.
was, "It's better to have loved and lost than to have never loved at all."
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, and that very much applies here. Like I'm
I
sure,
gotta,
Co, you loved your Z1R because I know we had this discussion, and I
Mm.
can't believe that I took a 1 week hiatus just to come back and find you selling your Z1R.
Well, that's why, because you fucking left.
So it's my fault.
Yeah, no. It's really it's the M30's fault because I didn't know the VC could have bass. That's the thing. This is why I love dynamic drivers. I love dynamic driver headphones because they respond and they can scale so well with your source gear. Planars I've found don't really do that. I mean, they can be revealing. They can reveal stuff about the transparent nature or the how they lean in terms of signature, but the capabilities don't jump as much as dynamic drivers do when you change up your source gear. And the
Yeah.
Verite closed on the M30. I mean, holy shit. It's just amazing.
So
I got a
Co,
quick question. Oh, yeah, sorry, what?
I just had a quick question too. If I sold if I sold the Stellia because I wanted more organic sound and a wider sound stage, do you think the Verite closed could fill that void that I'm feeling?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's why
Okay.
I sold the Stellia because it wasn't relatable or it wasn't connecting with me in terms of signature. It sounded great. It was technical. It was really good. But it's like driving I don't know. It's like driving a BMW versus a muscle car. One is austere and perfect, and the other has a lot of flaws. But goddamn, it's fun.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. The other question I had for you was about gear. Are you tempted by any of the new stuff that is yet to be released and the stuff that has been announced, like the Stealth?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I'm not tempted by the Stealth because it's expensive. I feel I feel like so this may be cliche, but last night listening to my Z10, my Abyss with my Bracasti, I felt for the first time in over 10 years of this headphone journey because I haven't really started much on speakers, but at least in the headphone department, I felt endgame. I almost don't want to use that word, but I felt it, and I am definitely interested. Like a ZMF Verite closed, for example, doesn't cost, as much as I put into what I already have, so I can justify that. But do I want to just blind buy every shiny new thing that comes out? I don't know. I don't think so. I used to think that I would, but the only thing that I'm sort of tempted by is I'm really interested in the circumaural Raal. I'm really interested in what Meze did with the Empyrean Elite that's going to come out. However, I think at this point my interest is more towards demoing these things, like going to Can Jam, seeing if I can get a demo from a vendor, for example. It's my interest has more gone from, "Ooh, some new exciting thing is coming out and I want to own it," and it's more gone towards, "I would love to spend a weekend with it." Just give me like 3 days with it, and whether I absolutely feel like I need it, that's up in the air. So, like, I am excited, don't get me wrong, about new things that are coming out, but I'm more excited to hear them than I am to actually own them.
Oh, well said. The Yeah, I think Lana, you're kind of at the top of the mountain, kind of looking down and kind of seeing what kind of other prospects are going to kind of rise up to the. At least that's the way I view it. But yeah, I mean, I'm interested in what's to come too. My initial plan was to get the tube amp and a new headphone, but then I also got the tube preamp. So like I'm running out of money here, and so I don't know. And this sounds so good that I don't know if I'm gonna go for a new headphone. My friend selling his Susvara is kind of tempting, but I don't think I'm interested in the stealth, but I'm with Lana. Like I'm really interested in circumaural Raal. I call it crawl, and then also the Empyrean 2, just to see kind of what happens with those, and if I feel like a really good ribbon uh, headphone might be, because if you look at people who have some of these top of the line headphones, they typically end up with a combination of Abyss and the SR1A as their kind of yin and yang in terms of like the dynamic, bassy, impactful, and then the more airy, high resolution with the SR1A. So if they can make that sound more complete with the circumaural design with more bass, then it seems like that could be like a do everything kind of headphone, kind of like the LCDR. Like the what I've been reading about it has been extremely positive, and it's been I think the price point was pretty reasonable too. So if they could do something like that, it makes me really curious about that. I've actually talked to Danny about doing a loaner tour, and they did express interest in that with Sonic Visions. So I think they said that the time frame is kind of delayed though, so they kind of said to get back to them in maybe around December time. So if we can make that happen, we'll definitely do it. That'll be great. And that's something I'm definitely interested in.
I like how everyone just skipped right over Abyss's upcoming closeback.
Oh, I didn't even know about that. Was that announced? I didn't even realize.
No, it's not announced, but who's the guy in charge? Joe. He's been mentioning it quite a bit in his videos on YouTube.
Oh.
And he's heavily hinted it'll be released this year. It was supposed to be released last year, but COVID delays and all that. So that's something I'm looking forward to as well, because I want to see what Abyss can do if they're really going to lean into the bass.
Is it going to be a closed back Diana?
Most likely, yes. That's what it's going to be.
Okay. See, I would like to see them do something besides the 1266 or Diana. Maybe something, I don't know, just I'm interested in them doing something completely different altogether. But like we'll see. Yeah, I've heard rumors of the Abyss closed back. I wouldn't mind hearing it. My interest just has shifted a lot from closed backs for some reason, because I used to love them quite a bit. But I think that if anyone can pull off a unique closed back at least, I think Abyss can definitely deliver there.
When you say unique, you mean that positively?
Yeah, well, with Abyss, it depends who you ask, because if you mention Abyss uniqueness, someone might be, oh my gosh, yes, and someone's gonna be like, oh my gosh, no. So they're a very polarizing brand, and I think the closed back probably won't be an exception. It'll probably still be polarizing.
Is there any way I can persuade anybody to delve into the world of IEMs?
That's a scary world, man. That's a scary world.
It's a fun world. You can experiment, and you can have a lot of fun with, honestly, not a lot of money.
I have an IEM on my desk right now. It's this CCA. You know that company?
No, I haven't heard of it.
Oh, okay. But no, this is relatively cheap. But it's like surprisingly well made. Like it has a detachable cable. It's not like some $2 or whatever $10 thing. It's quite decent. Yeah, it's surprisingly in the low end in terms of price, the performance you get with IEMs. I remember I had somebody recommended, because I wanted something for the gym, and they recommended one of those really small Shanling players. I have it. I forgot the model name of it.
M3X
Yeah, it might be that one. It's really small.
or M0.
I
Or
think
M0.
it's the M0. Yeah, I think it's the M0.
Yeah.
It's really small. But I remember hooking up, like, this CCA thing is like probably like $30 or 30-40 bucks, something like that. And then the M0 was, I think, 100. I can't remember. 100, like, I'm talking Canadian dollars, so it's even less in the US. And I remember connecting those and being totally blown away by the sound. Like, the old stack of gear I used to have in my main system, I honestly felt like I was getting, 85-90% of the sound with that, like, really portable, cheap kind of setup. And so I have no doubt that my opinion is actually IEMs are the future. That's what I think. I think that eventually IEMs will be able to mimic the benefits of bigger, huge copper open headphones, and then eventually mimic even floor standing speakers. I think that day will come. I don't know, maybe.
Well, I think, see, I would argue that we're already there. I would say that, like, I think Mason Fable Sound, I keep harping on this IEM, but Mason Fable Sound is a showcase of something which I think transcends headphones and gets closer to speakers than basically anything else I've heard, because it comes down to the principle of air conduction versus bone conduction. And for me, the reason why speakers are going to be the king for the foreseeable future is that physicality you get when a sound wave propagates through the floor and also through the air and then hits you. And with a bone conduction IEM, it sort of skips over that disadvantage that headphones have, which is all they can do is push air, and it comes closer to what speakers can do. It doesn't get there, obviously, but it comes closer. And I mean, Empire Ears has clearly seen the benefits there, because they're going to put that into the new Legend Evo. I don't know how that's going to turn out, but yeah, I would say that IEMs are hitting a new golden age. I mean, a good example of this would be I think have you guys heard of Hawaii Bad Boy?
No.
No.
Oh, well, he's a IAM reviewer on YouTube. He goes by Hawaii Bad Boy, BGGAR, and he's collaborated with what's it called? Tripowin, and he's come out with his own IEM, sort of like what Critical did with Moondrop, Blessing 2 Dusks. So BGGAR has come out with the Melee, and you go on Linsole, it's on the front page. It's called the BGGAR Melee, and that's supposed to be, he's aimed it to be the very best IEM under $200, and it sells for $49.
Wow.
And yeah, and so I got one coming in. I don't know when. I luckily got another first wave. Should be coming in, I think, in 2 weeks, but who knows? And I think, I mean, to be honest with you, IEMs, like, unlike headphones, because with headphones, there isn't a lot of choice when you start getting into like the sub $100. There's maybe 1 or 2 or 3 good models, but with IEMs you just get a litany. And you get these IEM models that just come out, and you got a new one comes out like one every 3 months or one every 5 months. Just the turnover is ridiculous, and the improvement is also ridiculous. And you get this also at the high end. Now, of course, at the high end you get these people sort of outpricing each other, because I think 3 years ago, what was the most expensive IEM 3 years ago? Apart from the O Bravo one, I mean, because the O Bravo was always ridiculous. But I think the most expensive IEM like 3 or 4 years ago must have been the Tia Forte, and that was what, $3,600. And now it's what, $6,600, and who knows what it's going to be in another 3 years. So I mean, yeah, I think IEMs are I mean, I really think that IEMs don't get enough credit, and the prices do get out of control. They really do. But just the technology leaps that they're making in these categories, and also I think it has to do with the market. There's more money in IEMs as a market than headphones, because you got the Hong Kong crowd, you got the Chinese crowd, you got the Malaysia crowd, you got the Singapore crowd, you got the Japanese crowd. You basically got Asia, and headphones not so much. So yeah, I mean, so if I can convince anybody to come onto this IEM train, I'd love to. I feel like I'm the only person waving the flag, and everyone else is enjoying their Abyss with their Brocasties and their fancy pants tubes with Fami and all of
I
this.
wonder who you're talking about.
Yeah. So if anyone's interested, just check the Melee out. It's pretty cool. Also, I finally got the tracking for the Elysian X, like 4 weeks too late, but I got the tracking, which is fantastic. I should be getting it on Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on what DHL does. What else? I think that's about it. Oh, did you hear, Lana? I finally got the HD800 headphone.
Oh, you never had them before?
No, it's the first Sennheiser headphone I've owned since 2005.
Oh wow. What do you
Yeah.
think of the HD800s?
It's really freaking nice. I mean, people used to say that it has a lot of peaks and it's a bit, harsh or it's bass light, and I was concerned. I had some trepidation, but I think those reports are greatly exaggerated. I think it's a very well balanced, very well tuned. Sorry, I should clarify. This is the HD800S. The bass is wonderful. It's a lovely balanced sound. I think Axel Grell did a wonderful job on this set. I can't really ask
agree.
for more. Yeah, I know. EV Shrug. I saw his thought. If you guys don't know, EV Shrug is a user, or sorry, not a user. What am I saying? He's a member. He's a member of this Sonic Visions, and he does some work for Sennheiser, and he got a unit, basically production unit of HD8XX. He posted his thoughts on his own Discord server, and he said that the HD8XX was a bigger leap from the HD100S than the HD800S was from the original HD800. So he loves it. So I'm pretty curious how that's going to turn out.
Interesting. I haven't read too much feedback yet about the 8XX, but I can say that I loved the 800S for classical. It was my main classical headphone, but not so much for the other genres when I compared it to the Atticus. The Atticus is just so fun and rich, and it has more bass impact. One huge thing that improved it was putting it on a power amp. Surprisingly, the bass became way more punchy. It just sounded even more open, more detailed when I put it on the pass amp. But then now on tubes, I can see this being my kind of all-rounder headphone that I use for everything, because there's absolutely no edge. It's just everything. The music is just very liquid and flowing, but it's still very open and detailed. And vocals are incredible. Like, yeah, on tubes it seems to really have some magic, and I feel Xecuter left, but I feel like him. You know how he pairs his 800 with his studio, right, which is like a holy grail amp, and I kind of think like this kind of is maybe what he's feeling. Of course, he has the original with SDR, but it makes me feel like that's what he's talking about when he says it has incredible micro detail and all the other, like the resolution and all that kind of thing. So it's definitely a legendary headphone. It's a great headphone, and built amazingly well, like in terms of reliability and that kind of thing. Obviously, to me, it's the most comfortable headphone I've ever worn. So yeah, it's hats off to Sennheiser.
It really is a fabulous headphone. I definitely agree. I think also the fun part with the HD800S and the 800 series is that it takes on the flavor of the gear you pair it with. So you sort of get, in a way, you get multiple headphones in one. With other headphones like Z1R, what you get is what you get.
Right.
There are pros and cons with that. With the HD800S, anyone who owns an HD800S, I would say go get a tube amp, because it does. You're right.
Yeah.
It sounds so great on tubes.
Yeah.
And then if you go through solid state, to me, it's just teetering on the edge of just being a bit too much, but it somehow works. So yeah, I'm really curious what they're going to do with the next gen, because when I saw them handing off the project to drop, like immediately I thought, okay, so does that mean that they have their own HD900 ready to go, or they're close to getting that shipped out?
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of doubt that because of all the shifting that's happening in the company and how
Mm.
they sold off the commercial division, and it seems to me like they know that 800S is so legendary, and so they're just going to keep producing it. And I don't know. Do you think that more of the money for them is in the kind of the more entry level models in terms of people buying their products? Like that's like their real business, whereas the upper echelon is more kind of boutique, and it's obviously it's a household name among audiophile circles, but if you compare it to all I don't even know the model numbers, but all the more entry level stuff they make, like even below the
Mm.
598, like that kind of thing.
Mhm.
I don't know. I
Yeah,
think
actually,
that's yeah.
that was actually my first. I would say the beginning of my head-fi journey was Sennheiser, the HD 280 Pros in 2005, and I owe a lot to that company. It's a really good headphone.
Nice.
If you guys haven't heard the 280 Pros, if you want a good introduction to closebacks, that is your introduction, and it doesn't get too much better from there. It's really superb. And then, of course, to get much better from that, I would say you'd have to spend maybe 4x. Yeah, Sennheiser does an incredible value for what they deliver. In terms of their higher end models, so someone I know reached out to Sennheiser in San Francisco, and they wanted to buy a HE1 Orpheus, and he wanted to get a dark marble, like a black marble for the casing. And if you guys don't know, the HE1 Orpheus is sort of like a boutique product, kind of like what Maybach is to Mercedes. So they work with you. They have their own like customer team, and they will walk you through the ordering process and help you customize the look and everything about this product. So he reached out and he said, "Yeah, I want a black marble. I want some gold stuff. He has similar taste to mine." And the guy said, "Yeah, no, we're not doing that anymore. You just buy it in white." Which is like, what's the fucking point? You're charging 60K for a boutique product that's one-off, made for you, and then you have the gall to tell your customers, "Hey, you're just buying it in white." Like, what's the damn point?
Yeah, I could see you on with Co. I could see you having one of those with gold knobs. That
Oh
has your
yeah, for
name
sure.
all over it.
No,
That's why I bought.
Co would have
Sorry,
a
yeah.
solid gold bar instead of marble.
Oh God, I dread to think how much that would cost. Good Lord. Actually, that's why I got the HD800, because it's the gold anniversary model.
Of course, a man of culture.
You're spelling culture with KO, right?
Yes.
Man, that's
Nice.
funny. All right. Well, let's. I don't think we covered everything, but I think that should be enough. Let's wrap it up. Any parting thoughts you guys have? Oh, Zach came back. Hey, Zach, how's it going? I don't know if Zach has any thoughts, but yeah, Zach, you there?
Just getting my second Pfizer.
Oh yeah, nice. It's good. Any final thoughts, guys? I think the one thing that I wanted to just mention quickly is just about to go back to the stealth for a second. It does seem like so far it's being well received. The Obviously everybody knows about Amir's review. The headphone guru review is incredibly positive. And then apparently Taryn said that although Andrew did mention that kind of the macro dynamics were not the best. He still likes it a lot overall. Taryn actually, I don't
How
know
do
if Taryn,
they?
I don't know. I don't
Sorry,
know if
but how do they find the
yeah.
bass?
I think apparently the bass is very well extended. Like it's a very resolving. It's well extended, but it's just the big slam, the big impact is kind of a bit. I guess they say it's similar to other Dan Clark headphones in that regard, but in the headphone guru review, he said that the dynamics were very good. So I don't know. But what's interesting is I don't know if Taryn was joking, but he said that Andrew actually prefers the stealth over the TC. He just released some impressions of the TC. But he might have been joking. I'm not sure because he also said
You gotta be kidding.
he also said he preferred the TC the 580 over the TC. But then he said he was joking. So I'm not sure. But it seems like the stealth is gaining traction.
I was sort of hoping, because okay, I'm probably the only person on the server that loves the Voce, because the Voce does bass Oh, it's great. It's just so good. And I was wondering, I was kind of hoping that the Stealth would sort of borrow from that a little bit,
Right.
versus going into what the Ether 2 did. Ether 2 is a wonderful headphone, but it's a bit too, it's just boring to me. I mean, it's great, but it's
Right.
meh. So it sounds like to me the Stealth is not borrowing too much from the Voce's tuning, because that was a really unique product, really deviated really differently from other DCA products.
Yeah, it would be interesting to hear for sure. But I guess we'll just wait for more impressions and we'll see kind of where things land.
And also,
Yeah.
I'd love to know if it scales, because I haven't seen too many reviews of the Stealth yet. I wonder if it scales well with gear, or if
Right.
it's fairly just standard, yeah.
Right. So Lana, any final thoughts?
Well, it's been great being back in the podcast. I'll just start off by saying that. And
Yay!
yeah, I would love to hear Stealth. When Stealth was announced, I know that a lot of people in Sonic Visions were saying how Dan Clark audio like isn't that great. However, I recently acquired an Ether CX, and I mean I've been having an absolute blast with it. So I definitely think that they can make outstanding headphones, and I mean, hopefully I'll be in Can Jam early next year, and I'm pretty sure that the Stealth will be there. So, yeah, I'm really just excited to hear the Stealth and everything else that's going to be announced and coming out here with over the next few weeks, actually, I think there are some things that are going to be announced over the next few days. um I have one thing that comes to mind specifically. So, like, yeah, I'm just really excited as always about where uh audio is going. And like, even though, as you said, like, it feels like I've sort of reached a summit, like, I still get excited. Like, if they came out with $100 headphones that sounded so good that it could rival a lot of the expensive stuff, like, hey, I am just all for it. And I'm always excited about what's coming up in audio, about the future. It's just an exciting hobby to be in, like being at sort of at the top and having nice amp stacks and all that stuff. Like, it doesn't take away the excitement of watching things grow and get bigger and better as time goes on. And I'm just still really so happy to be in this community and watch all the exciting things that get released every year. It's always so exciting. So those are my closing thoughts, that I'm just generally excited.
Nice, that's awesome. And Zach, what about you? Any kind of final thoughts on everything?
Um, is my mic working? So
Yeah,
did
yeah,
my
I
main
can hear
fault.
you.
Yeah. Closing thoughts. Excited to see how people's impressions come through from the audio shows coming up, because there's like I say, a bunch of new gear that's going to be out there. Personally, I'm just sort of trying to learn as much as possible about room acoustics and sound treatment. That's like a whole nother rabbit hole of half physics, half voodoo that I'm trying to wrap my head around. But yeah, I'm just happy to keep seeing, as Lana sort of said, people in the community and their journey as they grow. Like, it's good when you kind of get to a point where you have your references, and then you can kind of help guide people find, something that they actually enjoy, find value even as well, which is a really exciting thing Lana talked about as well. People getting good sound and not having to, talk to their house is a really nice thing. But yeah, no, just happy to be here and really glad, Smodgy, to sort of keep the community going and to put on these podcasts and to put back into, YouTube and stuff, so that we have, like, influence in other areas and keep attracting new members, bringing them into the audiophile fold and everything that comes with that. Yeah, good.
Awesome, but I appreciate that. Zach and then Ko, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great podcast. I like that. I like being able to chat more about the philosophical side of things. I know that we love to talk about gear and all the technicals, and that's fun. But I think stuff like as you brought up before, the value of music versus the gear, and how the gear comes and goes, but the music stays. And having those sort of discussions, for me, I think is really interesting, because it allows us to discover each other's points, because we're the server, we have a lot of people from around the world, different different walks of life, and so sharing those answers between each other and getting that perspective is really valuable, and it's very insightful. So I look forward to more discussions in the future.
Fantastic. And I just want to say that, I really appreciate all of you guys being on. You guys are just amazing. I think you guys are all brilliant, insightful. I learn a lot from all of you. I think of Sonic Visions like a kind of a family almost. And it just, I'm excited too about the future, upcoming Can Jam and audio in general. And I look forward to doing a lot of future episodes and exploring different topics. Next episode, I think we're going to try to live stream it on YouTube, so it's kind of goes out live, and there'll be a kind of live chat and that kind of thing. And yeah, let's just keep growing the community. And I think that kind of community feeling we have, where kind of everybody's contributing, is one of the kind of more unique things about Sonic Visions, which I think is awesome. So that's great. Perfect.
Yep.
All right, guys. So thanks a lot, and take care.
Thank you.
Yeah, mate.
Take care.
Bye bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.